Hey, 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 it's Dave Duford. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. You might notice something a little different about the office setting. I have stormed Springfield, Missouri in search of Cody Askins and have found him. Cody, how you doing today?
Dude, I am awesome. I'm having a ton of fun with Dave. Dude's came in, man. He's taking over. He's firing people. He's telling people to go sell more insurance. Like, no, we've had a blast. I appreciate you being here. Seriously.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, so we're here to talk with Cody. I did a nice interview with him talking about our business, what we do for agents out there, and we're returning the favor to learn a little bit more about Cody and see what he's up to. So, Cody, for those people who are new to my channel, may not know you yet, give them a little bit of overview of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, buddy. So I got started in the industry when I was 19 as an intern, 20 as a full-time agent. My dad's been in business 32 years. And at 20, I did cold calling and cold door knocking, sold life insurance while in college playing basketball, made $117,000 my first 8 months, fell in love with the business, sold for years. End of 2015, I thought, there's this Dave guy out there, man, that's helping these agents and educating. I'm like, I think I could do that, right? And so I start putting my own stuff 6.5 years ago. It's grown to where now I've got 9 different companies, a bunch of business partners, multiple buildings here in Springfield, Missouri, with a bunch of staff, and 8% Nation. We're throwing the conference. We'll have 2,000 agents here in Dallas in July, only a few weeks away. Yeah. And just wake up having fun and help a bunch of insurance agents all around the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you started off in the business, you said, has it been 10 years yet?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got started very similar time.
Right.
Around 2011.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Except you, unlike me, cold called.
Correct.
Cold calling takes chutzpah, as we like to say. What was that like going out there to cold call on business? And
Dude, it was, I didn't know any better. Seriously, though. So I worked for Mutual of Omaha, a career captive company. My dad was a general manager with them, had been for years. He actually took this territory from 51st in the industry to #1 for a bunch of years. And I came in, and I remember going to a recruiting meeting, and there was 10 of us in the room, and the manager said, all right, all of you stand up. He said, take a look around, man. And we're taking a look around. We're like, dude, I can take him, but I don't know about her, right? And then he says, okay, 9 of you sit down. And he made me sit down. I'm naturally competitive, so I'm like, gosh, dang it. We left one person standing. And then he said, maybe one of you will make it. And I said out in that moment, I said, if there's going to be a one, I will be the one. And so I wrote down, and my dad was like, hey, you're going to get in this business. You're going to make 6 figures your first year. Like, he was always really good at speaking into me, right? He really was. Right. And so I wrote, I will make 6 figures my first year. But I didn't know how to do it. And with Mutual, there was no leads. Like, it's a lot of these shops, man, where you're just like, hey, go see people. Okay, how? Just do it, right? So I said, well, I got to get creative. I got to see people. So I actually started doing call nights. I cold called for a while first, and then I would bring over college kids every Monday night. We would all call, and I would leave there with 8, 12, 16, 20 appointments a week. And then when I didn't have call nights or I ran out of appointments, I would then go cold door knock like senior housing facilities around Southwest Missouri. Yeah. And just fell in love with doing that. Yeah, it wasn't the easiest way. I feel like I just beat my head against a wall every day for a year. However, I got really good. It forced me to show up. My skills had to be even better because they had never requested info. So I got really good really fast. And just I figured out something that, the thing is, like in this industry, you don't want to do that. But man, if you just find something and you do something hard enough, long enough, you're going to bust through, right? And have some success. And so I'm the example of, like, over my career, when other people wouldn't do something, I just would just pound my head against a wall for years, if that's what it took.
Right. Did you ever have that feeling of wanting to quit?
I didn't. I can't say I had the feeling of wanting to quit. I know that after the first year, here's what happened too. I haven't shared this a lot. This is real. My first year, I had some success. I was an intern and part-time for a little bit, and then I went full-time. And my first full-time month, I made $9,000, right? So I fell in love with the space pretty quick. But and I was my burial life insurance was a 35% commission level, right? Oh yeah. Term was 50, incredible, and which we don't normally talk about that stuff, but on your channel we can talk whatever we want, right? Right. We went, and the goal was to make 6 figures. Well, I did it, but the problem is there wasn't another goal. So I stopped after 8 months, focused on basketball and school, and then I went back into it after my first year, second year, And I went to a warm market house and didn't get a sell. And I'm riding back on the way back like, I would have got that sell every time. What is wrong with me? Well, I had not been working for like 3 or 4 months, right? Well, those next several years, I had success, but I've only truly had success when I had a heightened goal that I really wanted to achieve. And there were moments, I mean, it's interesting. I actually thought for a while that the independent side of the business was actually harder because we didn't know anything. I didn't know who Forrester's was. I didn't know who any of these companies were. We worked with one company. And I do think there's something to be said for that. A lot will disagree with me. I don't think everybody should be in a captive career environment forever. But I do think having one carrier to sell, one product to sell, and some focus can help some agents with some like less distractions.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but to answer your question, I wouldn't say there was a moment where I was like, there were plenty of down moments where I'm like, gosh, what am I doing? I remember like 5-6 years ago, like, man, if I could just make $5,000 a week consistently, like life will be incredible. I'll be set for life. And then I got there, I'm like, yeah, this is not going to work.
So what did it take to exceed that ceiling that you initially hit?
I set out and said, if I will just sit down with at least 10 people, even cold people I've never met that never even wanted info, if I will just at least sit down and ask 10 to 15 people a week to buy life insurance, I will make it. And it just, you said it earlier when I was interviewing you, it just came from the sheer amount of activity. And when you are when you have something to do and then you do a bunch of it, even if it's wrong, you're going to find some wins along the way. And so I just found something and just hammered it.
Right. Just get back to fundamentals like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
What caused you to make the transition from selling insurance to then helping agents? What was your kind of vision and why did you go that direction?
Yeah. And I'm surprised I haven't been asked this question more because it's such a good question.
Yeah.
I remember in my first couple years, after I did really well my first year, I had a manager in our office in Southwest Missouri that said, hey, there's these 2 agents. They're new on our team. They've been with us for a few months, but they're struggling. They're not making any sales. They're about to leave the industry. And they're like 5 hours away from you. Can we go up there and you spend the day with them and help them? And I'm like, I'm not a manager. I mean, yeah, I did okay, but like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm like, I'll take them door knocking, right? So we literally went cold door knocking. Well, what's funny is we go up. One of them's name was Greg. One of them was Hunter. And I'm like, well, we can't all 3 go to the door because that's just kind of weird. So I'll go with you and then I'll go with you and we'll just like rotate, right? And first door we go to that actually answers, we get in and we make a sell cold. And I'm like high-fiving and hugging these people and everything else. And we leave because I do sell with a lot of energy. And the guy's like, how did you do that? He's like, bro, they were like your best friends by the time you left. I'm like, well, you got to build some rapport. They need to trust you, right? So we keep going, and I think we finished like 5 or 6 sales for the end of the day.
Wow.
Cold door knocking.
Nice.
And I just fell in love with that so much. I remember driving back 5 hours that night, and I just started crying, you know? I'm not a very emotional person to begin with, but I literally thought I have found what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like selling insurance myself was cool, but helping someone else gain some inspiration, see how to win, and give them some oomph to go get it, and see a bigger vision for their life gave me a lot of just a lot of inspiration for what I knew I wanted to do later in life if I ever could, you know?
So what was your trajectory from that point to get to where you wanted to be, helping agents more? Because at that point you were kind of reluctant to do this to begin with.
Totally. Well, then shortly after that, I got offered a sales manager position to go to Tulsa.
Okay.
I'm like 22, you know? I'm still at 21 I was still in college at the time, 21 or 22.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't even graduated yet. I'm like, I don't think that's what I want to do yet. Well, I mean, long story short, if my father hadn't left to do his own thing, I'd probably still be there.
Really?
I'd be a manager somewhere. I'd be probably with corporate America. I'd probably be freaking so unhappy. I wouldn't have control, and I'm a natural like control freak that wants to do whatever I want whenever I want. And because of that, it allowed me to get more creative on what I could do in this business. When you're on the independent side, working with my dad, I was really able to do whatever I wanted. And I just went back to what I was doing, and did a lot of cold door knocking and, started throwing in some leads. And I'm like, what are these? How's this work? Do you actually want to buy this? And then I started to help some of the agents we were adding to the team, right? And then I started creating like a local mentorship program in Springfield, Missouri. And I stole like a dozen agents from a local Bankers Life office, and they hated me, right? Even though I like bankers now.
Right.
It was funny because then I'm finding out what I really enjoy, but I didn't enjoy the like local agency building mentorship program. I'm in the car with agents all day and they're keeping all the money and I'm barely getting paid. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work either.
Right.
And so finally I'm like, why don't I just start documenting what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and help some agents along the way. And I didn't monetize for 13 months. The plan was never to, do leads or do events or do speaking or help people with recruiting or, whatever, like, or do acquisitions or the agency side or the road show or all this other stuff we're doing. That was never the goal. Like the goal was just, I'm going to just naturally creative, liked content, even though I say I liked content, even though I didn't really post on social media. Right. But I was like, why don't I try this? And I did, and don't go back and look from December of 2015 because they're flipping terrible. Okay. But it kind of ignited something in me because within the first 6 months, people started reaching out, a little. I only had like 351 subs my first 12 months. Tiny,
isn't that crazy?
Tiny channel.
Yeah, right,
yeah. So crazy. 12 months, 351. Wow. Now people are getting thousands in their first year, right? But this dude paved the way for that. Well, what I know is it started to ignite something in me that maybe my life could be bigger. Maybe my life could be different. Maybe I could do more with my life than I ever intended. And I mean, one of my targets, you didn't ask this, but one of my goals always was to be a public speaker when I grow up, to get up and speak. Like I love it. Like I get a rush. I turn into a monster on stage. Like at this point now, I absolutely love it. Well, that started because my grandfather was a Baptist pastor.
Oh, is that right?
For 40 something years.
Wow.
So it's in my blood.
Right.
Well, and I think for my family thought I may be a pastor when I grew up, I don't know. Right.
Right.
Well, that also kind of like I was starting to speak. And so then I started to see how much I loved that, and so, but it's funny, ever since I was a kid, I was like, sitting down here is cool, but I want to do that when I grow up.
Right. There's always a aspiration to go towards.
Yeah.
And what about in this business? Because you started this local approach to helping agents. You started getting people coming in. You had no vision, correct, for where we are today. What was the way that you bridged that gap to having the grand vision?
Yeah. 8% really unlocked that, right? You were at our first 8% conference along with many others, Matt Mungia, et cetera, et cetera. And I was what really unlocked it is I didn't know where this whole thing was going. I was only helping people with leads, not because I loved doing it, but because people were asking for it.
Right.
And it was kind of like supply and demand, right? There was a demand and I had a supply, I guess, right? I wasn't a drug dealer, but I got some leads back
close
there.
enough.
Yeah, exactly, right? Close enough. And I go to Cardone's event, 10X, February 2018, whatever it was. And I'm like, man, our industry needs something like this for the industry. It's not about recruiting. It's not about carriers. It's not about IMOs.
We didn't have anything like that.
No. It was just like our industry needs something to collaborate and network and bring people together. I've always loved working with other people. That's why I've loved doing stuff with you over the years.
Right.
And I've always felt like I can do something with anybody, no matter who they work with or what they do. And that unlocked that, because then for the next several months in 2018, I'm thinking about, should I do this conference? Nobody has no clue who I am. I've got, I've got hundreds of subscribers, I don't know, maybe 1,000, 2,000 by then. And I remember I went to a Facebook group, I think it was a Final Expense Facebook group. And I posted, when you think of the word final expense, who do you think about? Because I was actually I was planning on making it a Final Expense conference.
Oh, really? Okay.
Only.
Yeah.
That would have been dumb. But I was. And there was all these names, right? But nobody said my name, right? It was early. And so I said, well, maybe there's a way to make this different or bigger. And so I went to my dad and I was like, I'm thinking about doing this. And he's like, you should. Well, he's always been very supportive, very positive. I've been blessed with incredible parents, both my mom and my dad. Not everybody is, right? And I'm aware of that. I want to eventually do stuff for kids because of that too, by the way, which I may have another story later on that. And we start planning and executing, and it just unlocked this like grander vision for my life and what I wanted to do. And I told myself, man, if this is going to be hard, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're going to beat your head against a wall for days, weeks, months, and years. But you pull this off, it will do something special for the industry, for people, and for your family long term. And so we did. And really the rest is history along the way.
That's awesome. What, these events, was it an immediate success for you? Did you feel like it's hard doing something for the first time?
Yes.
And, you know, you're learning everything. You know, I see these kind of the same thing in the events that I do. You know, you're just kind of like, well, figuring out as I go. Like, what's the trajectory been for the 8% Nation?
So I had never planned a birthday party before the first 8%. So I had no clue how I was doing events. We were just figuring it all out. I was attending other events, so I had other stuff to look at and get ideas from, and I researched like a madman. I mean, I was researching on like some new YouTube ad funnel like for 3 hours yesterday. We just talked about it earlier. And so I had no clue what we were doing. We lost about $250,000 the very first year. We spent almost $500,000. We had 454 people show up. Had to give away a bunch of tickets, et cetera, even though I was spending a ton of money. Got some big names, Grant Cardone, Ray Lewis, et cetera. And it was really fun. And after the first one, I thought, well, it went well. It was fun. Better than we ever imagined. I paid for an MC, which was smart because I never spoke before.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. I also actually went and paid $19,000 to sponsor Insurance News Net 30 days before, just so I could speak. I could speak and have 3 booths because I'm like, dude, I'm doing a conference. I've never spoke before. Like, I want to speak. I know I can eventually get good at this. Well, you just learned, you know. But there was a part of me afterwards like, man, should we really do this? You know, can we really do this again? Well, it just keeps getting better every single year. It gets bigger. We learn how to, you know, not lose our butt every single time. And the team gets bigger, and as the team gets better, it all just gets better. And so it's been interesting.
I think the reason I ask that is because, like what you said there at the end, it's like, you know, it was a success, but perhaps you didn't see it come out the way that you wanted to. What most people would quit. I guess that's where I'm getting to.
Yeah.
Why didn't you?
And
I think this is a recurring theme here that I think people should listen to, because we want to look at people in life who have exceeded expectations, done very well. And there's these threads of similarities through the process that I think that I'm always interested in investigating, is what separates the person who's successful, very successful in life, those people who never get any kind of traction. And it's in these little moments, these like hinges on the door frame that swing, like which way are you going to go? So why didn't you do that? What about this said double down, triple down?
So good. I'm getting goosebumps, his chills as he's asking these questions. It's such good questions. You can tell he's done this a few times over the years. I had seen my parents just not quit ever in life at anything. Like we weren't allowed to quit sports.
Right.
We weren't allowed to like skip school. There were these little moments. If we had chores, we weren't allowed to skip them. Right. If my dad said he was going to beat my butt with a paddle when I got home, or a belt, which he broke a paddle on my butt, then he did. He didn't say he was going to do one thing and do another. And so those little things triggered a lot of confidence in me along the ways.
Sure.
And then these little wins in my career definitely added some confidence. I just knew, like, I've studied people enough. Like I've been studying business since I was a teenager probably. And I've done it enough to realize the people in life that have done the most went through the hardest times for the longest times, and they just pushed no matter what. And I don't know what it is, but I've always had a natural confidence in myself. I remember telling my sister as a kid, like, you know, not even playing tennis. Like, if I want to be a professional tennis player, I could be. You know, like, that's stupid, but
sure,
came out of my mouth. Well, I don't know where that comes from, but I've always had this like unwavering confidence, even though it'll waver every once in a while, that like if I want something bad enough, I can accomplish it.
And that's been with you since childhood.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why. I knew I would be speaking on stages and doing events, but I don't know where that came from either.
You see it as your destiny?
I did, man. Like my pastor says, it's like a calling. I don't know. And I don't want it to sound like we workish, with that crazy couple. Like I don't want it to feel like
Sure.
that, right? But as I'm watching that kind of stuff right now, to learn, but man, it does. It just feels like something bigger than me. It really does.
Yeah, I've always felt the same way too. It's like I'm meant for this. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's a destiny, and
totally.
And you just follow it. So that's cool. So where are you going with this business? What's the next phase for you guys?
It's a good question. One of the things that we're going to push 8% to 10,000 over the next few years. I'm learning more and more every year to do it. We're not far off from getting to 2,000 seats this year already, which has been a year-long push. I see the combined collective of our companies will exceed 50 mil in revenue in the next 24 to 36 months, which is cool. I also see us doing a lot more acquisitions in the future. I also see us doing massive events. I'm talking like 10,000 insurance agents on a virtual event, Like
Sure.
I see us doing some big stuff. But I also see one of the things that really intrigues me right now is real estate. I talked about it earlier.
Sure.
And I haven't even talked about it ever, so I'll talk about it here first, I guess, is to roll out a CA Capital company, not like an equity fund at this point, but just where we're like syndicating some properties and like
Right.
buying real estate with our network and our audience. And some people are like, well, that doesn't even connect. Why would you do that? Well, it can connect to the audience.
Oh yeah.
But also there's a massive tax depreciation element to it, cash flow, and then you have actual equity in properties, right? And so there's a lot of agency owners that I'm seeing that are sitting on a lot of cash, that they're doing well, they're cash flowing, they make $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, whatever, but they don't know what to do with their money.
Yeah. I have a friend in the business I think he did 25 million in override production, and that's just in revenue, not net. But he's like, man, I make so much money, but hell, I don't have any write-offs I can do anymore, and it's like that's a first world problem here, people.
Yes, big time.
But wait till you start paying them tax checks. I'm telling you, you start
Correct.
looking for stuff like this,
Totally. It's like Pablo Escobar when he starts digging and putting money in the ground, and then it's
Yeah.
deteriorated. No, we don't have that problem. But yes, it is. Like it's a real issue, because when you start paying 6 figures in taxes, and your buddy's paying way more than that, it gets your attention in a big way.
Right. Yeah. First problems, or first world problems.
Yeah.
And as Puff Daddy once said, more money, more problems.
More problems. That's right. That's right.
Well, good. I'm going to ask you a couple questions that you asked me, some just random ones. How about, let's see, favorite dessert?
Ooh, crap. It used to be creme brulee.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now it's actually cookies.
Cookies.
I'm
Any kind of cookies?
obsessed with cookies. Chocolate chip,
Just
sugar, snickerdoodle, peanut butter, oatmeal.
okay.
I'm a cookie fanatic.
Cool.
Man. Yeah.
What do you do for fun?
Not enough.
Apparently.
For sure. Right? People always ask me, like, dude, what do you do for fun? What do you like to do?
Yeah,
I'm
well,
like,
you got to have time to have fun,
correct. Well, I love playing basketball still.
Oh, yeah, you played in college, right?
I did, yeah. So I still love playing. I can still play a little bit. I like playing golf, but I never have time for golf. It takes 4 or 5 hours. I'll play like 2 or 3, 4 times a year, and I'm halfway decent. I'm a bogey golfer. I can shoot in the 80s, but I don't play a lot. But I played as a kid, so that helps. My wife, we bought a boat. We live near a lake, 40 minutes from a lake. She's actually texting me right now because she's sitting at the lake house that we're trying to buy. And there's like 5 people trying to buy this one house, and I like really want to win. And so that will
Guys,
be
you
something.
buy a boat, you got to have a house with it,
You got to do that, right? That's the problem. That's another, yeah. So that's, we're trying to do more of that. She's like, you need to have some fun. You need to disconnect a little bit. I'm the guy that like, it is a problem. It's a major problem because you can't scale this way. I want to know what everybody's saying about me every 14 seconds. I want to see every Facebook notification, every Instagram notification, every YouTube comment, like, you know what I mean? Every email, every whatever. And I respond to everybody in 14 seconds when they text me back or email me or whatever. I answer everybody's calls, but you can't scale that way. And so I finally, in the last few weeks, have turned off notifications to all social media.
That's a big deal.
Which we haven't seen any of them come in, except for some text, right?
Right.
It's a huge deal. But what I've figured out too is the fastest way for me to grow a company is through people. So we have over 100 staff amongst the different companies. Well, Alex is our social media manager. We stole her from Bass Pro Shops with Johnny Morris. Well, she can take care of flipping Instagram messages and Facebook stuff. Right. And I'm always worried. One of the things I've struggled with the most is as this thing grows, people want access and they want to spend time with you, et cetera, et cetera. I've got this whole philosophy on like the people progression of clients and stuff. And the problem is you can't, like the people I was like hanging out to and talking to, and they feel like they haven't talked to me for 6 months. And they're like, well, you can't get access to Cody anymore, right? Well, if everyone's always got access to you, number one, this is going to sound a little wild. The harder you are to get to, the more they want to get to you. I'm not saying I want to be super hard to get to yet, but also the more time you give everyone, the less you can give other people time, right? Or less you can really start to work on the business instead of in it. And so I'm kind of like learning this whole leadership dynamic, and I learned a lot about the team building over the years, and now I'm learning how to like scale with me putting a lot of focus on really core activities, because let's just say that we'll do $25 million this year amongst all the companies. Well, if that's the case, if I spend half of my week doing dumb stuff, how much farther could we get faster? Yeah. And so I'm really paying attention.
You have a time problem now.
Yeah.
Used to be it's an inventory problem, right?
Correct.
There's just not enough to do, and you're like, what do I do? Now you got way too much to do. Now you got to figure out how to.
Yeah. We even built a form to like vet podcast requests because we get them every single day.
Really?
And the team is vetting those because I'm like, I don't want to do them all. You know, I want to. Deep down, I do. Yeah. And I love it. I want the reach. I want the expansion. However, if it's like a brand new podcast and there's no one listening, they could interview me in 6 months, you know, that kind of stuff. So it goes back to time. Also with 8%, literally today is 30 days out for 8% Nation 2022. That takes up all of my time. You know what I mean? We're going to spend probably $950,000, $1 million when it's all said and done. And so we're pushing on that hard. Well, that's occupying a ton of my focus.
Yeah. Do you think though do you regret not making that change earlier? I guess what I'm saying is that personal touch in the business. Do you think that was part of the reason you're successful?
Mm-hmm.
It's just knowing that when you not let it go, but
the number one reason why people don't delegate stuff is they don't trust the person they're delegating it to, right? So when I find someone that is really good and they show me over time that I can trust them to do their job correctly and really well and maybe better than I would do it in a lot of cases, then I'm okay, like push it off. But early on, I was doing everything. Yeah.
So how do you know when you found that person that's that guy or gal?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That is the thing. So one of the mistakes we used to make with hiring is we would say, well, you're cool. Welcome to the team. Right? So many mistakes when it comes to hiring. Well, now we are like, here's the role we need to fill. Right now, we're trying to bring back a graphic designer in office. Dylan's got too much going on with videos and production for reality TV shows for Ultimate Agent, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Alex is managing social media and emails. We need to add a copywriter and a graphic designer. Well, why? Because they could get so much more done. Like I want to get to where I'm posting 3 to 4 short clips on all social media platforms every day.
Right.
Well, that's a little insane. That's a little nuts. However, some people get tired of seeing me, totally. But is it going to further the brand and explode? Yes, for sure. Well, so if that means I can get a little bit of work off him and her and put it into a role, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a week, whatever, and someone can focus on that, then we can do a lot more of that too.
Sure.
And so, but when I hire for a role, a specific role, and then we find the absolute best person for that role, no matter what, even if we got to pay a little bit more, it always pans out.
How do you know if they're the best person?
So for example, like Dylan's, we're trying to hire a video guy right now. So help Dylan is like a backup for like, maybe graphic design instead, but we want the graphic designer to know some video work. Well, he will vet their work. We'll throw them a couple projects, see how they do. We're working with a freelance designer right now on some stuff. We threw her some work. We got it back and we're like, holy crap, this is really good. Maybe we can bring her in more, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of it. I also like people that are coachable. So I'll do this in an interview process. Kelly will now. She does all the interviews. She's director of operations. I'll say, like, Dave, what makes a good insurance agent? And you'll say whatever, right? And I'll say, I don't like that answer. Give me another one. Right? Not to be a jerk.
Yeah.
But I want people that their pride's not getting in the way. They're going to listen. They're coachable. They'll respond. They won't get flustered. I can tell if they're annoyed. And I don't really want those people on the team. You know what I mean?
So you're kind of testing those character traits right up front. So are you not hiring on resume as much as the personality and coachability?
Correct. That's true. Resume slightly more if it's a specialty role like video, right? Or like social or like graphic design. Like project manager, they just need to be organized and be able to communicate well. Like that's different. Event planner, Cassidy had never done some events, but she was originally social. But she's phenomenal at that. We're also okay moving people around in the team when we feel it's necessary.
That's good.
We put all the salespeople through a DISC assessment before they come in, so we can see what type of personality they are. It's those types of things that we've learned over the years that we need the best person, and whatever we got to do to make sure they are.
Yeah, I just my marginal experience doing that because I don't have employees. I don't even look at resumes. I like to talk to people, see what they are and because that matters more than anything else. I think
totally.
At the end of the day.
I've never even built a resume.
Yeah.
My entire life. I worked at a little grocery store when I was 16.
Right.
I walked in Apple Market and said, "Hey, I want a job," and they're like, "Well, what do you do? What's your name? Et cetera, et cetera. Here's what we're looking for." Great. I was like, "Hey, I'll never be late. I'll outwork anybody in the building, and I'll leave when you tell me to."
Right.
And they're like, "Okay, you're hired, right?" Well, I didn't have to have a resume then because I just walked into a little bitty grocery store in Rogersville, Missouri. And then as an intern at the insurance office, my dad was already the GM. So I've never even built a resume. So that's why I'm like, if I didn't build one, I don't need to worry about it.
And the people are on their best behavior. Everything's perfect.
Correct. Or that's what I love too. If they're like, you're hiring them for copywriting and they got misspelled words on their resume. It's the best version of them.
Yeah, trash.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, Cody, I enjoyed it. Tell my audience where they can learn more about you.
Thanks, buddy. YouTube channel at Cody Askins, which we love putting out videos just like Dave. Instagram is probably the best to see like behind the scenes of our life on at Cody.Askins.
Great.
Thank you very much. If you want to email, Cody at Cody Askins. So there you go.
Thank you very much, Cody. Appreciate it.
Brother. Appreciate you.